you really find out really quickly, Coach Randy, that it's really not about, it's not about X's and O's. It's not about, wins and losses. It's really a people business. And I think
Yeah,
that's what,
yeah.
I
Love
think
that.
that's what
Love that.
people, I think that's what people really have to define and discover when they get into this profession, especially in the coaching world. Is sure, the accolades and all the things you may see behind me,
Yeah.
it's those are the great things, but those are just, external things. For me internally, it was about finding my passion for the game of basketball, and then how can I teach others? How can I give to other people, instill my passion in them, and then help them evolve as players.
Time out. Let me ask you this. What if the gap between where you are today and where you want to be isn't talent? It's how you're training when no one's watching. That's what this studio podcast is all about. We don't chase motivation. We don't hype potential. We build identity through habits, standards, and systems. This is where student athletes, parents, coaches, and leaders come to sharpen how they think, prepare, and perform. I'm Coach Randy, and this is the Built Different Studio Podcast. What's up, family? Coach Randy here. Welcome to the Built Different Studio Podcast, where we don't just talk about success, we train it. Mindset, systems, habits. This is where champions in school, sport, and life are made. Let's lock in and let's build. Family, isn't it interesting how the people who make the biggest impact usually took the hardest road to get there? Today's guest is proof of that. Coach Adam Hocking didn't follow the conventional blueprint into collegiate coaching. And honestly, that's what makes his leadership different. He's coached at every level of the journey, from high school basketball to AAU to college assistant, and now as a head women's basketball coach, building culture, accountability, belief every single day. What stands out most about Coach Adam isn't just his basketball IQ, it's the way he develops people, passion, people, process. That's his foundation. And in a world chasing shortcuts, quick results, and social media highlights, Coach Adam is building something deeper. Habits, standards, relationships, competitors who know how to grow through adversity. He understands something a lot of people miss. If you build the person first, performance follows. And today, we're talking leadership, we're talking player development, and we're talking about what really creates elite competitors when nobody's watching. So family, if you're an athlete, parent, or coach, or someone trying to level up in life, lock into this conversation. Help me welcome Coach Adam Hocking. Welcome, Coach Adam.
Coach Randy, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on the show. And Coach Adam, before we dive in, I want to start with you. Not the title, not the wins, not the resume. I'm talking about your story. For everyone listening, who is Adam Hocking? What were the moments, experiences, and challenges that helped shape the leader and coach you've become today? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, for me, Coach Randy, I grew up in a small town called Galena, Illinois, just about 50 minutes from here in Dubuque, Iowa, where I'm currently at Clark University. But, for me, I was just your average typical jock growing up in high school, and then playing 4 or 5 different sports, and, going from one gym to the field to the next. And that's really just where I kind of instilled my competitive nature and passion for athletics and sports in general. And I was a pretty successful high school athlete. I was, an all-conference, all-area, athlete in 4 or 5 different sports, and had a lot of success.
Oh, wow. So name me some of those sports, Coach Adam. I want to make sure I understand that. Because multi-sport athlete, 1 and 2 is one thing, but you're playing 4 to 5. What are those sports?
Yeah, I was an all-conference, all-area athlete in, let's see here, basketball, baseball, football, and track. And then I played a little golf as well. So, I did a little bit of everything.
Wow, that's amazing.
The cool thing about going to being from a small town, going to a small school, you get a lot of opportunities to, get your hands in a lot of different areas and play a lot of different sports. And, obviously that's just a passion of mine. It's just being athletic and being competitive and getting out there and competing. Yeah. Man,
that's amazing. Did you play at the collegiate level as well? Any of those sports?
I did. So, my route was a little bit more unconventional than most, as you mentioned. But, for me, I just had a lot more, scholarship opportunities to play, a couple of sports in college. I ended up playing both football and baseball in college. So I played those two while I was in college. Played at both Iowa Wesleyan University and then the University of Dubuque while I was in college. And then when I was a sophomore in college at the University of Dubuque, I had kind of a local high school friend from my hometown who was the head coach at a girls basketball program in Wisconsin, Southwestern High School, and little small town of Hazel Green, Wisconsin. And at the time, he was looking for a varsity assistant and a middle school 7th grade girls basketball coach. And at the time, I didn't really think much of it, and I just thought, hey, it's an opportunity to still be around the game of basketball, and being a college kid at the time to make a little extra money too. And so I took the opportunity on, and really just kind of fell back in love with basketball again, and that's where for me to spend a lot of time in the gym and getting in there with the girls and then just exploring my passion for the game of basketball. So then the following year, I was a junior in college, and the varsity high school coach, Brian B.U.I.L, at the time, he had retired. And then the school had offered me, they asked me if I wanted to be the head girls basketball coach at the time. And I was 21 years old at the time, and again, junior in college. I was like, well, the time's now. So if I want to do this, certainly dive on in. And I got the opportunity interviewing and ended up getting the position. And so my junior and senior year in college, I was playing football, and in the fall, I was a varsity girls basketball coach in the winter, and then I played baseball in the spring. And then, I was as busy as anybody back then. And then, really once I got more serious into coaching, that's where I really got more involved in, coaching clinics and AAU and satellite basketball camps and all those kinds of things.
That's amazing. Coach Adam, I want to make sure our listeners understand the experience that you had. You played in high school. You went on to the next level. I think it's sub 7% actually play at the next level in terms of beyond high school. And you have the coaching experience. So, Coach, your journey into collegiate coaching wasn't conventional. You talked about that. You've coached at the high school level, AAU, as a college assistant, and now as a head coach. What did taking the long road teach you about leadership, patience, and building people that maybe you wouldn't have learned if success came fast?
Yeah, I think for me, Coach Randy, it just made me had to learn and do things organically. I think so often in sports and athletics, everybody wants to take the elevator, right? They want to take the fastest step all the way to the top. And for me, I honestly, and I hate this word as a coach, but I had to grind. I really had to take it as a step-by-step approach and really gain a lot of experience, and really had to get my hands involved in a lot of different areas, because when I just got into coaching, I didn't honestly know a whole lot about it other than just my own playing experience. So, that's why I really had to
that makes sense.
And I'm somebody who's really, goal oriented and process driven. So I want to make sure that I'm doing things not only with integrity, but making sure that I'm giving my players my all as well as a head coach. And I'm just somebody who's really prideful in that manner. So when I got into coaching, Coach Randy, I really started to get super serious about it. I attended as many college or coaching clinics as I could. Luckily, I'm around a lot of, colleges here in my area. There's probably about 8 or 10 small colleges here around my area, probably within about an hour distance away. So, when I got into coaching, that's when I really started to dive in, and I started to just reach out and get a lot of feedback from coaches. And I spent a lot of time at my local colleges getting to know a lot of coaches and just getting feedback and watching practices, attending practices, and just getting my hands, involved in as many areas as I could. And that's when it kind of instilled my passion for coaching, and especially for basketball. And that was the big thing for me, is just figuring out what my process looked like, kind of doing a lot of self-reflection to figure out, what kind of coach did I want to become. And then really, once I started, getting into it, you really find out really quickly, Coach Randy, that it's really not about, it's not about X's and O's. It's not about, wins and losses. It's really a people business. And I think that's I think that's what people really have to define and discover when they get into this profession, especially in the coaching world. Is sure, the accolades and all the things you may see behind me, it's like, those are the great things, but those are just, external things. For me, internally, it was about finding my passion for the game of basketball, and then how can I teach others? How can I give to other people, instill my passion in them, and then help them evolve as players. And, once I did that at an early age and started to do that at a youth level, and then a club level, and then at the collegiate level, that development process certainly just got more serious and got more detailed at that point.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you mentioned that, how every stop along the journey helped shape your perspective. And I think that's powerful because a lot of young athletes today want results without respecting that process, right? And
Yeah.
isn't it interesting how the uncomfortable seasons in life usually become the exact seasons that prepare us for leadership? So that brings me to this. So you talk a lot about passion, people, and process. In today's world where athletes can get distracted by rankings, followers, and outside noise, how do you help your players stay grounded in habits, daily standards, and long term development instead of chasing shortcuts?
Yeah, I think again for me, Coach Randy, it's about defining what success looks like to you. Not only individually, but then as a team. And for me, I rely that often on my players and
Okay.
instead of telling them, here are team rules, here are team standards. I really want my players to have that input in them because I want them to create their own staples of their culture, their standards and within their program, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who have to withhold that and live
Mm,
up to those standards. So making sure that there's open and honest feedback within my team to make sure that they always have, an open door policy with myself and my coaching staff. They always have an
love that.
open floor, open mic policy with their team, where they can
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
feel free, where they can say what's on their chest and give feedback to their teammates, sometimes good or bad. Just that way we
Yep.
can always be open and honest with each other. So I think that's the first step. And then on top of that is just defining what their own personal development looks like. And I think
Mm,
that's the
mm.
biggest thing for everybody, because like I said before, everybody wants to take the elevator. Everybody wants the quick results, but you know,
Yeah.
just figuring out what that process looks like to you. And for everybody, that's a little bit different. I've had players who have been more naturally gifted and talented when they got here at Clark when they played for me, and I've had others that have really had to put in some serious
Work.
time in their own
Yeah.
personal growth and development. And for everybody, that road to success and that road to where their goals are, it might look completely different. And just making sure they understand what that process is, and then the next step is just being dedicated to it. It's
Mm.
just it's a day by day or step by step approach. So getting them to understand, what do I need to accomplish in the next 24 hours or this week or this month. What goals do I want to accomplish? What do I want to do to get to the next step, to the next level, and continue to progress as they're here over time.
Now that's powerful. All right, let's pause right here for a second. I want to ask you something. If nothing changed over the next 6 to 12 months, would your student athlete be more confident, more prepared, closer to their goals, or still hoping things just work out? That's exactly why Athletic Connect is the primary sponsor of this show, because the difference we see, it's not talent, it's structure, it's mindset, it's having a real system. Inside Athletic Connect, we help student athletes build confidence, discipline, and a clear plan, from daily habits to performance to creating a digital identity that actually gets noticed by colleges. And this isn't just basketball. This is for student athletes in every sport who are serious about their future, in the classroom, on the court, on the field. So here's the move. Go check out athletic.connect.com and see how we're helping athletes become built different in sport, in school, and in life. All right, let's get back to the show. What stands out about that answer is how intentional development really is. Confidence doesn't just appear, it's built through repetition, structure, and accountability. And if a young athlete truly committed to those habits every single day, you can almost predict the growth that would happen over time, right? Which makes me think about this next piece. You've coached athletes at different levels of confidence, maturity, and competitiveness. What separates the players who maximize their potential from the ones who fall short, even when talent might be similar?
Yeah, for me, it's determination. For
Okay.
me,
Okay.
and mindset. I think those are the two most important things, because
Love
I
that.
think a lot of times it's not so much what you say, but what you do as well. Right? Everybody has long, lofty goals, and they have aspirations to do A, B, and C. It's just about what's your game plan to get there. What's your step by step approach to reach one goal at a time. And I think that's the biggest thing, and that's kind of the challenge of our generation too, right, Coach Randy? Is that anymore, especially in the world of basketball too, there's so much exposure, there's so much focus on NIL
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
scholarship or what level you're playing at. I think a lot of times just fit is the most important thing. What place am I going to be at, or what school am I going to be at that's going to help give me the platform to what I need to do to be order to be successful, but then also to reach my maximum development as well. So I think that's super important in the process. But then also just in the game of basketball, especially for me, and that's what I love about basketball, is that you have to be good at so many different skill sets, right? And myself and being a basketball coach, they got to be able to dribble, pass, shoot, play defense, rebound, be strong, be quick. Where I feel like in other sports, and not to hinder other sports, but you could be really successful at one skill and still make a really big impact. You could be a really good volleyball setter, you could be a really good pitcher in softball, but in basketball, if you have some weaknesses in your game, they're going to show very quickly. So
it's going to come
that's
out.
always the challenge of our game as well.
Now, that's such a powerful distinction, because people think elite competitors are born different, when really a lot of it comes down to, like you said, mindset, discipline, and how they respond under pressure. And I think parents and athletes listening right now are realizing that development is deeper than stats or highlights. It's really identity, habits, and environment too. You mentioned it. So let me ask you this: you've been known as a relationship-based coach who really prioritizes player development. How do you build trust with athletes in a way that allows them to be coached hard, grow through adversity, and still feel genuinely supported as people?
Yeah, for me, I always say the cliche for me, but I always say PhDs, and I think that's passion number one. And I think to be able to be passionate, that's one thing that I always look for in a recruit, is somebody who's just a dedicated athlete, somebody who is focused on their own personal growth and development. Passion is number one. If you don't have that passion for the game of basketball, that's not something that I can instill or coach into you. That's something that you've got to have, is that passion to grow and to, from a competitive nature too. So passion number one. Two is just got to be honest. And I think that's the hard thing about coaching, is that sometimes you don't want to step on toes. You don't want to tell kids the things that they don't want to hear, but that's the part of building the trust in the relationship. But you've got to be honest with your players to tell them, hey, here are the things you're doing really well, but here are the areas of growth that we need to improve, and here's how we're going to get there. Third thing, again, just dedication. You've got to be able to have your players put in the time and make sure that they're on the right train, or they're on the right path or process to get to where they want to be. I'll give you a perfect example. I just got done with doing a workout with one of my girls, Josie Potts, who's a senior for me. And she's a kid that every week she tries to get in about 5,000 shots every week. And for her, she's got a very detailed path and very detailed routine and outline for every week. Here's how I'm going to get there. So just being dedicated in that process too. And then the last thing is just servant leadership. You got to be able to serve others. You got to be able to instill and build others up through their confidence, giving them the feedback that they need, but then also showing them that. And I think a lot of the great things about our level at the NAI level here and being at Clark University is I get to spend so much time individually with my players. Luckily, at a lot of small schools, you see a lot of coaches that wear a lot of different hats and they have to do multiple roles at their schools. I'm super fortunate here at Clark that I just get to coach basketball. Majority of my and that's the question I always get as being a coach in my family is, what do you do all day, coach? Well, easy to say that, but for me, majority of my day, if it's not practice planning or game planning or recruiting, it's spending a lot of individual quality time with my student athletes. So whether that's in my office watching film, whether that's taking my players to lunch and getting to, ask them how their personal lives are going and spending more time with them and building that rapport and trust, or if it's being on the floor with my players and just, again, working on that dedication piece and seeing their player development grow each and every year.
And what I respect about that is you're talking about leadership beyond basketball, teaching athletes how to handle life, accountability, and pressure in healthy ways. I love how you have that acronym, the PhDs, right? It's very powerful. And when athletes feel seen as people first, like you said, it changes everything about their confidence and performance, which leads me perfectly into the next question. You've experienced the game from so many different angles: player, high school coach, AAU coach, assistant, and head coach. Looking at the next generation of athletes coming up today, what's the one mindset, standard, or habit they absolutely need to truly want to become built different?
Yeah, for me, Coach Randy, it's just be true to yourself. And then the second part of that is just love and trust the people that are around you and enjoy that process. I think sometimes that often gets overlooked, especially we're in a generation where everybody's always comparing everybody, right? Whether if it's rankings, whether if it's comparing what scholarship offer you got or those kinds of things. So I think the big thing is just be true to yourself. And then the second part, again, just love and trust those who are around you. And that's the one thing for me as a coach, especially, that I probably took advantage of when I was my own, when I was a student athlete myself, was just taking advantage of those people around you, because you do want to be that kind of coach that instills trust and instills confidence in your players. But then also on top of that, you want to make sure, most importantly, that my players, that they're loved, they're cared for. I care for them more than just a student athlete, but I care for them as a person, and I want to see them grow not only on the basketball court but off it as well. And I think that's the most important thing for the next generation, is just make sure that you find the right routine that works for you. You find the right support system that's going to be in your corner, that's going to help you, physically, socially, mindset wise, psychologically. Just making sure you have the right support system and people in your corner that are going to help, give you the platform and give you the resources to be successful.
And I love that. So remind me again, the PhDs. What does P stand for? I know honesty, determination, and
Yep.
servant. What is P?
Passion.
Passion. That's right. How can I forget that? I have to have that passion. No, I love that. I love that. Coach Adam, thanks for sharing your insight. Last question for you. We covered a lot of tips. You shared a lot of important strategies, mindset, habits, techniques. I want to ask you, was there anything else you wanted to share with our audience members? It could be related to something we already covered, something related to you and your program, anything you want to share, kind of open mic.
Yeah, I would say two things for me, Coach Randy. Number one is just always self-reflect on what your personal core values are and what your priorities are in life. And for me, it's faith, my family, and my friends, and those are the big
Okay.
things for me. I'm somebody who's very family oriented, and I'm going to give you a story of my own. So
Yeah.
in 2023, our basketball program here at Clark, we won the NAI national championship in 2023.
Oh man, congrats, man.
We had a terrific
Congrats.
we
Yeah.
had a terrific season. We're 30-2, had a great season, and we finished on a win and won the national championship. That was my last year as the assistant coach here
Okay.
at Clark. And then the following year, I was promoted to the head coaching role, and then I took over the program, obviously. And then my first year as the head coach, we were 29-3. We won our conference. We made it to the Sweet 16 in the national tournament, had a lot of success. And the hardest part that I had in my first year of being a head coach is just a little bit personal for me. But during my first year as the head coach, Coach Randy, I had lost 3 grandparents and my father all within a year and a half time
Oh,
period.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, so it was just a super challenging time for me. Not only, number one, I've kind of had my dream job, so to speak. I'm the head coach of the basketball program that I love and I'm passionate about. And I'm super excited for, the next challenges of being a head coach and running my own program. And then I just had some personal adversity that I had to fight through. Like I said, I had 3 grandparents pass away and my father all within a year and a half time. It just made some really hard challenges in my life. And I think that's the big thing for me looking back, is just you learn so much about the people around you, and sometimes you just take that for granted. And I think honestly, the biggest people who have impacted myself and my coaching, and especially my coaching philosophy, is just my family, my friends, and then just my faith. Just looking back at all those things, just the most important things to me. And I just kind of help redefine myself as a coach, and it maybe do a lot of self-reflection in terms of what kind of coach I want to be, what kind of impact I want to make on other people, and then where do I want to put all my efforts in. And I think those are the two main things for me. And then the second part of that, really for me, one thing that's really helped my development as a coach is I really fell in love with reading, of all things.
Okay.
We live in a world of TikTok and YouTube and all those things, but
Yeah.
I really developed a passion for just reading books, and that's one thing.
Nice. That kind
That's
of
really
reminds
one.
me of Phil Jackson, right? He always gave his players
Yeah.
books to read.
Yep, and we do that too in my program. We do book clubs with our team, at least once a year, and all those kinds of things. And for me, I'm probably going through about a book a week. I feel like I'm on that pace. So just finding different ways that I can continue to learn and grow. Because there's so many things in terms of coaching and leadership that you can certainly continue always learning to grow and evolve and adapt as a coach. And that's one area that's really helped me as a coach, just really started to, just find myself and find what my passion is going to look like in the next few years here at Clark.
Man, I love that. Coach Adam, I appreciate you for being here and sharing your story, your perspective, and your leadership today. This conversation was real. And this is exactly what Built Different is all about. Family, that was powerful. Coach Adam reminded us today that success isn't random. Winning cultures aren't accidental. Confidence isn't built overnight. It comes from habits, relationships, standards, and the willingness to stay committed to the process even when nobody's clapping for you yet. What I respect most about this is Coach Adam doesn't just coach basketball players. He develops people. Like he said, be true to yourself. PhDs, passion, honesty, determination, servant leadership, the family, friends, and faith. I mean, that gives me shivers. You know, I'd like to say for me, it's faith, family, and back to family and faith, right? I love that. And in today's world, that matters more than ever. So if you're an athlete listening, understand this. Talent might open the door, but habits decide how far you go. If you're a parent, remember that the right environment and leadership can completely change your child's future. And if you're a coach, never underestimate the power of relationships, consistency, and belief. Coach Adam, thank you again for the impact you're making on the next generation. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
And this is where Athletic Connect comes in. Through tools and services like the Victory Compass, Power Hour, Mindset Mirror, Goal Sync, Fight On Mentality, Built Different Mindset, and the College Pathway Intelligence, athletes and families get more than inspiration. They get a real framework for growth, a framework that helps them gain clarity, develop elite habits, strengthen their mindset, and make smarter moves for the future. If today's episode resonated with you, don't just listen and move on, apply it. Watch and listen to the Built Different Studio Podcast on all major podcast and video platforms, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And if you believe your story, your leadership, or your journey can impact the next generation, visit www.athletic.connect.com. That's with an IQ, and fill out the application to be on the show. This is bigger than content. This is about building champions in school, sport, and life. Handle today with intention. That's how champions are built. Fight on. Remember this, family. Talent might open the door, but your mindset, your habits, and your discipline decide how far you go. So keep showing up, keep building, and keep choosing the harder road, because that's the one that makes you built different. I'm Coach Randy, and this is the Built Different Studio Podcast.